Hey, welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson, a.k.a. Uncle Tex, a.k.a. Professor Tex. Before we get started, smash that like button, subscribe to the page, share with a friend and whatnot. Any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know about them, and we can go ahead on and talk about them. Let's get into this right now, man. Now, I've already talked about this kind of before with another player that, everybody thinks is supposed to be in the Hall of Fame and whatnot, who had a 2 or 3 times better career than this guy had. I told you guys, I think back in 2019, going into 2019 season actually, when I found out when they was having the finalists and all that type of stuff for the Hall of Fame going into the 2020 class, I'm like, they're putting too many people in, they're watering it down. See, there was a time, and it still is this time for baseball. Because for a long time, baseball was this country's national pastime. And baseball's Hall of Fame, even to this day, although they're extremely picky, and I get it, and they use all the other little narratives and stuff like that, and stuff like some of it is BS or whatever. They play the game with the steroid era and stuff like that or whatever. But that's another sport and everything like that. But however, they hold it in high esteem because they really get off into the numbers and all this other kind of stuff like that. And then baseball is here and football is basically right there as far as I was concerned when it comes to Hall of Fame. Everything else falls wherever it falls down. And I don't really take basketball joint that serious because they got a Hall of Fame that has women that's being Hall of Fame in the sport, and they're not playing professional sports where when you had the WNBA come in, the conception of that was what, 96? I was living in D.C. at the time, 95, 1996, if I'm not mistaken. And it's, the Nair Smith. And I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm like, cream of the crop NBA players. Because that's what we're talking about. You can use the term pro and then make it loosely and say, oh, she played overseas and she did whatever. You got women in there, I don't want to hear nothing about that shit. That's bullshit as far as I'm concerned. But that's another subject for that's somebody else to talk about that crap. It feels that way I feel about in football. They feel that same way about in basketball. However, it's held in high esteem until the 2019 season when they let about, it was what 8, 19, 20 jokers in. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I said, they're watering it down. I said, at this particular point in time, I said, what are they going to end up doing? They're going to get to a particular point where they're going to start letting everybody in the damn Hall of Fame. So now, because we have Twitter, because of social media, this 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, this is nothing that's not even talked about. This wouldn't even be a discussion. There was nobody, no sports writers, no Hall of Fame voter of the AP of whatever newspaper outlet that you were in ever considered Jim Plunket as a Hall of Fame quarterback, even if he did win 2 Super Bowls. Because at the end of the day, you have to have a body of work. Where is his body of work? Take the 2 Super Bowls out. Where's his body of work? Now, guys know I deal with numbers. What do I tell you guys all the time? Numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. So since you're on Twitter, and these Raider fans, whether they're from Oakland, whether they're from LA, and now Vegas, and all the fighting and fussing and cussing that goes on at the LA Rams thing and 49ers and then all them California things, all that crazy shit that they got going on over there. I don't know if it's that gang shit or what. I have no clue. But it looks tacky and it's trifling with some of that fan base and how they actually act over there with the fans and the fighting and the carrying on and all that other bullshit. It's tacky to me. But again, that's neither here nor there. See, we live in a place now. We live in a place now where it's like, because social media is so prevalent in our lives and will be now for the rest of our lives and whatnot, where the common folk voice actually means something. There was a time, you write a fan base, you can a fan base, and you can write your player and all that. They're gonna throw that shit in the trash, just like a lot of the Hollywood entertainers and whatnot do. You got fan mail and stuff like that. That shit didn't matter. Now it matters. Because at the end, you strip away their occupation. They're just regular people like you and I. And they have feelings like you and I. That's why you'll sit up there and see when some guy probably in his basement with zits on his goddamn face goes in on an actor or actress about how crummy their movie was, and all of a sudden I'm deactivating my Twitter page. People are so mean and da 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 da. Or now football players, basketball players, when they have an issue with their contract, they delete or they remove all of the paraphernalia of the team that they play for, and that's to show them that I'm unhappy. This just shows you where we're going at, where we're at right now as a society. But social media, you have a voice. Just look at the fact that we had the president, whether it was Trump, him being where he's at, and that was based upon social media. It's based upon social media. Now you have people on social media, because I've already sit up there and gave the business to all these Cincinnati Bengals fans and this whole thing about with Joe Burrow and whatnot, and what he's done or not done and what he's supposed to do, and the delusion that because the Cincinnati Bengals has literally what they say as far as on Twitter, they'll sit up there and say they take on they'll morph into the Kansas City Chiefs and say that is what we're supposed to be doing. That's us. But it's not y'all. You haven't done anything. Matter of fact, I did a fun thing because I started going back. I said, well, Cincinnati Bengals, not a whole bunch, but I'm like, they have had Ken Anderson, they had Boomer Esiason, they had Carson Palmer, Jeff Blake for a couple of years, and whatnot, then Carson Palmer later on, and now you got Joe Burrow, who's sitting at a hefty 0-3 right now. The Bengals are. And I told y'all, I said, if they didn't get it done these last couple of years, I said, eventually, in due time, that team is going to dissolve because they had their window. Because there's certain teams that have a window, they have the team, they have the coaching, have everything in place, and they don't get it done. And as time goes on, they will be, oh, you made the Super Bowl. Then it's okay, well, you made the AFC Championship game again, okay. And then all of a sudden, you don't make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, this happens and that happens, and before you know it, they're an afterthought. That happens in this game. But going back to the subject at hand, because I'll get back to that a little bit later on. I explained to y'all a while back, a couple of years ago, when I sit up there and made the video, when I said Ken Anderson doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, and this is why, and I broke it down. His numbers was just as superior as all them other guys that was in that particular at that particular time in the 70s. His numbers was just as good as all the guys that I named, whether it was Bradshaw, whether it was Greasy, whether it was Staubach, whether it was Burt Jones for the couple of years that he had. Those are your top tier quarterbacks. Plunket was never in that conversation. Sorry, Raiders fans. He was never in the conversation of a top tier quarterback. Yes, he made Rookie of the Year in 70, I think it was 71. Got it. So what? What did he do after that? But don't let me say that. Let's go over here to pro football. You're looking at somebody that played 15 years. In the 15 years that he played, he had a winning record with 10 starts. 10 starts. Got to have 10 starts. 9, 8, not 9, not 8, not 7, not 6, not 5, not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1. 10 starts. From a 14-game schedule, 14 game to a 16-game schedule. Okay. So in 80, he was bought there. And again, we wouldn't be having this conversation for the most part if Ken Stabler doesn't clash with Al Davis at least for that 80 season, because by that time he's over there with the Oilers going 11-5. Ken Stabler would be with that 80s team and they would win the Super Bowl with him. But that's neither here nor there. That's another subject that I might bring up some other time. Now, he goes 9-2, starting 11 games. They win the Super Bowl 15 if I'm not mistaken. The next year, He starts 7 games. Now, mind you, in a 9-2 season, it's because Dan Pastorini got hurt. He was traded for because they swapped. They sent Stabler to the Oilers and sent Pastorini to that of the Raiders, which I don't know what Al Davis was thinking about. Okay, but it'll make him look like a genius. Fine, and so be it. He goes 9-2. They win the Super Bowl. The next year he plays in 9 games. He starts 7. He goes 2-5. 2-5. 82 strike shortened year. Goes 8-1. They will, I think, lose to the Jets in the divisional round. Okay? In the divisional round. Go back the next year, 83, with a stud, Marcus Allen. They go 10-3, win the Super Bowl. Which, as his best season as a pro. 230, 379, 2,935 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 18 picks off of a 60.7% completion ratio. Again, we look at 10 games or more. After that, and that did that at age 36, from 37, 38, 39, 5-1. He gets hurt or whatever like that. Remember, Mark Wilson was supposed to be saying he got hurt. That's why he was able to end up playing what he ended up doing there in that of 83. 82 or 83. Where is his body of work as a professional NFL quarterback that renders him a Hall of Famer? Just because you so-called won a Super Bowl, or even 2 for that matter, 3, we'll have a conversation about it. He didn't win 3, he won 2. Let's look at his accolades. No Pro Bowls. No All-Pro second team. No All-Pro first teams. Comeback Player of the Year in 80. 71 Rookie of the Year. 71, that was a whole nother fucking lifetime ago with a whole nother team. He made Super Bowl MVP. I give him that. He played some good football. This is not to really shit on him, but at the end of the day, because the word didn't exist back then, he was a bust. Now, mind you, busts can still live up there and play and play for a decade in the league, because it's something that they do have that they can still play. They're just not the player that everybody thought that they were supposed to be. Let us continue. So, in starts of over 10 games, 6-8, 3-11, 5-9, 7-7, 6-6, 5-9. There is really no winning records there. If you want to throw the 7-7 in there and the 6-6, that's cute, fine, or whatever like that. That yielded no playoff wins at all, no playoff appearances at all. Now we get to the Raiders in 80, who had a very good football team, 9-2. The Raiders that year, let me see. I think they might have finished 7-9. Let me see. They finished 7-9. Wasn't very good that year after they won the Super Bowl. Got it. Shoddy quarterback play. '82 strike short season. There. 8-1. They would lose a divisional round to the Jets. I think I talked about that a little earlier. 10-3. We all know what they pretty much did there. They would win the Super Bowl against that of the Redskins. That's it. I'm saying we're talking 10 starts, not 5-1. Where we would go the next year, play that, and what did the Raiders end up doing in '84? Let's check it out. They would finish 11-5. Who was their quarterback? Because the old boy got hurt, went 5-1. Mark Wilson would go 6-4. Because Plunket was either hurt or wasn't playing that great of a ball. Matter of fact, I say being hurt. They again, record and stats. He went 5-1. He was 108 for 198, 54 completion ratio, 1,473 yards, 6 touchdowns to 10 picks that he threw in 6 games. Now you're going to tell me that's balling? Wilson, BYU product, not much better, but he would end up playing 10 games, 2,151 yards, 15 touchdowns, 17 picks, or whatever like that. Because really, at the end of the day, it was all about Marcus Allen that particular year, as far as I'm concerned. They would go 11-5, lost the wild card to Seattle. That was 84. If we go 85 season, Plunkett's done. Mark Wilson, 26-08, 16 touchdowns, 21 picks. All about Marcus Allen again. That's the year he won the MVP, I think, Offensive Player of the Year, 1759, 11 touchdowns, 67 receptions, 555 yards. Case closed, 11-5. That was all about the running game and a strong defense. They got him where they got to right there. And I think they would lose to New England. That's the famous game where they, when my man Matt Millen punched the general manager, if I'm not mistaken. One of the best pictures ever taken. Lost the divisional round to the Pats. He's done. He's finished. He's done. So let us recap this. Let me go ahead and recap this for you jokers, for you Raiders jokers. Always fighting and fussing and carrying on and whatnot in these fans in these games and all this other bullshit. So you're looking at a quarterback who with the minimum of 10 starts. I'm not going to even look. I was going to do all the math. I'm not going to even do all the math. Whenever he did over 10 starts, 9-2, 8-1, 10-3. So, in essence, 18-4, 18, 28, and probably 7, I guess. That would be 80, 82, 83. Those are the only games I said. And when you look at it, never played when it changed to the 16 game. Never played 16 games. Set out all of 78 because thought about completely hanging it up. When the 14 game schedule, the closest winning record he had was the 7-7 and the 6-6, 500 for New England teams. Go to San Francisco for 2 years and compiles an 11 and 15 record? Yeah, 11-15 record. New England, 23-38. Those 3 years that he with over 10 starts, that's what, and then he ended up winning the Super Bowl in that. So you're going to tell me this guy belongs in the goddamn Hall of Fame based upon 2 or 3 years that he basically did, win 2 Super Bowls, no stats. Show me anywhere, anytime and place, because you still got to play 14 to 16 games in that particular season. You still have to play regular season. You still got to win to qualify for the playoffs. Show me at any given time where Jim Plunket was one of the top quarterbacks in the game. I'll wait. But I'm not going to wait too long because you all know that he wasn't. Did he get 2 rings? Yes. But if we're going to use that particular type of logic, use it for all the positions then. In that case, we could talk about Greg Townsend, who was a 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle in or whatever the fuck he played and whatnot and all that. And he has a ring and whatnot. Why isn't he in the Hall? You going to put him in the Hall of Fame too? Because as far as resume to resume, his is just as good as his. Now, you have assholes on here, and if you're 50 and above, you know what I'm talking about, 50 plus. You'll bring up, jokers will bring up Dan Fouts. You can bring up Ken Anderson. I already did a show on Ken Anderson. Y'all go back and check it out and look at it and stuff like that and why he's not in the Hall of Fame. For shits and giggles, let's go ahead and do Dan Fouts. Shits and giggles. Never won a Super Bowl, won the 3 AFC championship games. And he was one of my favorite quarterbacks. Six-time Pro Bowl, 2-time All-Pro. 2 or 3 times second-team All-Pro. From 78 at age 27. I'm going to stop it at 1982. All right? Dan Fouts led, he was Dan Marino per se before Dan Marino. Okay? This man and the San Diego Chargers as a whole led the league 1, 2, 3, 4 times in yards. Once in completion percentage, twice in completions as well as attempts, and twice in touchdowns. This man in 1982 in a strike-shortened season with 9 games is going 6-3. .204, 330, 61.8, almost 62%. Almost threw for 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, but they gave that shit to a fucking kicker named Mark Mosley. And I've said this before. Mark Mosley must have seen one of those Hall of Fame voters, or I say Hall of Fame voters, one of those AP writers getting bent over, wearing a garter, or dressed in a dress or something, because there's no way that he was supposed to. Now, he got, if I'm not mistaken, he made Offensive Player of the Year, but he should have made MVP based upon what he did in that short amount of time. Almost similar to us a few years later when you would have Jerry Rice, 5 years later, strike-shortened season, catches 22 touchdown passes, but they get the shit to John Elway, who wasn't even, who I think was All-Pro second team. 9-time Pro Bowl, I think All-Pro second team once. He's never even made a first-team All-Pro. But we know what John Elway's game was all about and what he did with what he did with less. Okay? Back to Plunket. Raider fans, do me a favor. Explain to me, show me right now, when and where was it ever a time where Jim Plunket was one of the top quarterbacks in the league? I will wait. I can name when Rich Gannon was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I can name when Ken Stabler was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I can name that. I can never name when Jim Plunket was in there. Thus, that's why he's not in the Hall. What did he do for his career for the first 10 years of his career? Let's stop acting like with more than 10 starts, he was a loser. He was a bust. Did he represent in the playoffs eventually and win 2 Super Bowls? Yes, but he wasn't even their first option at quarterback. It was Dan Pastorini, who wasn't shit as far as that went, and then Mark Wilson. Bottom of the barrel, same as well. Stop the jokes, y'all. Cut it out. It ain't happening, and it shouldn't have. If it does happen, I wouldn't be surprised, but this is the type of rhetoric that is spilled on the internet nowadays to have these guys thinking that they should be in the Hall of Fame, and these are homers. Raider fans are fucking homers. Sorry, guys. When you start talking about that's utter bullshit. Now, when we talk about Lester Hayes, yes, at the very least, a third ballot Hall of Fame, at the very least, because he was one of the top corners for half a decade. That's 5 to 6 years. 5 years. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the fucking game, and is considered him and Mark Haynes considered the best cornerback duo in the game ever. And what he did with that 1980 season, just go back and check out my archive. You see what I'm talking about. When was Plunket ever considered one of the top 5 or top 10 quarterbacks in the game? Never. And you know he was not. So how do you get the gall because he was on the team? He was told, you got the Ferrari, all you got to do is drive it to Pasadena and just don't wreck it and we're good. That's it. As a veteran quarterback at the time, by the time he goes to the Raiders, he's 32 years old. He took a year off at age 31. After failed for 7 to 8 years, 9 years of nothing. Okay, I think I got it now. No pressure. No pressure. This man has never played. He played 14 games the first 1, 2, 3, 4 years of his career. Never 14. I say when he got the 16-game season, this man never played 16 games. Never started 16 games. And you say he's supposed to be in the Hall of Fame? Come on, y'all. Stop it. God damn it, stop it. Please stop the fucking madness, man. Stop it. Y'all got to stop this shit, man. You can't constantly be talking about this guy belongs in the Hall of Fame just because he won 2 Super Bowls. Oh, he won a Super Bowl. They're trying to do the same shit with Matthew Stafford. Now, mind you, Stafford plays in an era where he's thrown for 5,000 yards 1 or 2 times. They throw the ball 40 fucking times a game. Your regular quarterback can get 3,000 to 4,000 yards. Just for the mere fact that he's throwing the ball 40 fucking times a game. But he's supposed to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, he won a Super Bowl. Now, so we go to negate all that goddamn losing? All that doesn't matter now. Which negates the whole aspect of a quarterback and his record, which is a bullshit stat as far as I'm concerned, but it's a stat nonetheless. Explain to me how come and why you think he's supposed to be in it because he won. In that case, then, well, shit, put Jim McMahon in. I'll go you one further. Put Mark Rippon in. You still have to produce and be one of the baddest motherfuckers that play that position. And with Dan Fouts, and I talked about this with Ken Anderson. We want to act like, Bengals fans want to act like from 76, 77, 78, 79, and 8. We'll look it up now. Fuck it. We ain't got nothing else to do. I ain't got nothing else to do. I can do a little cooking later on, but we know, and game watching, a little sipping going on and whatnot. But let's go. I ain't got nothing better to do. Let's go and do this. For these goddamn homers. This is what, from 77, 7-6, 4-8, 4-11, 5-7. So 1, 2, 3, so for a 3-year span, and let's see what Cincy did that year in 77. They went 8-6. They didn't even make the fucking playoffs. So 7-6, 4-8, 4-11, 5-7. The Bengals were fucking horrible. Now, all those other years, starting 10 or more, 7-6, 10-4, 7-6, 10-3, 10-4. His best years in the 70s was 75, 76. Led the league in passing twice, something Plunket's never done. Led the league twice in 81, 82 for completion ratio. He catches lightning in the bottle, goes 12-4, 300 for 479, 62.6, 3,754 yards, 29 touchdowns, offensive player of the year, comeback player of the year, offensive player of the year, NFL MVP. And they make it to the Super Bowl. If they had any kind of fucking running game, they possibly should have won that game. But, so please explain to me, how does this man here supposed to be supposed to be in the Hall of Fame when he has no body of work at all in 15 years of playing? And then when it went to 16 games, the man never played 16 games. I want Raider fans to drop comments in the box. State your case, please. And I will destroy it. I will destroy it. I will get rid of it. You can take a lot of quarterbacks, man, who don't make the playoffs, who can get on a particular team and give that type of production and possibly win a Super Bowl. He sat out a whole year. He wasn't even expected to do anything. And you think he belongs in the damn Hall of Fame because of 2 Super Bowls? Well, fuck, put Mark Rippon in, for that matter. Put Jim McMahon in, for that matter. Mainly because what y'all are doing is this here. Because the majority of your quarterbacks who's won Super Bowls and whatnot, the majority of them, the way that it goes down, the majority of them, they won. They were one of the better players in the game. See, when you won a Super Bowl, in most cases, whether it was Bart Starr, that's a Hall of Famer, Len Dawson, Hall of Famer, Ken Stabler, Hall of Famer, even though Zimmerman didn't want to put him in there. Who else? Bob Greasy went to 3-1-2. Ken Stabler, Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, Len Dawson, Johnny Unitas, even though they was on the ass end of their career. Want to keep going? Troy Aikman, Brett Favre, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning. Because the majority of your quarterbacks that won Super Bowls or a Super Bowl was one of the best quarterbacks in the game. So if you go by the numbers of it, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, so now quarterbacks who wasn't, you're trying to gauge them. Matthew Stafford, who's won one. So I'm a loser for 90% of my fucking career. I win the Super Bowl. So now I immediately, that takes me up to a guy who, let's say a Dan Marino, where he's supposed. How? How does that take you from here to there? Especially if you haven't even played all of the fucking games. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Do y'all understand what I'm saying? How does that work? The majority of your quarterbacks that won Super Bowls, those guys are Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and they were one of the best quarterbacks in the game for a certain amount of period of time. Now, if we go to Roger Staubach, like I said this, people don't realize, well, Staubach never made an All-Pro team. He made 6 or 7 Pro Bowls. But his winning percentage, 6 Pro Bowls, when Pro Bowls actually meant something, not turned into a fucking PE, not turned into PE match, because that's all it is nowadays. How does he fit into that mold? If he wasn't one of the top quarterbacks in the 70s, when he came out in 71, he wasn't. Wasn't one of the top quarterbacks in the 80s, where he won 2 Super Bowls. And you want to try to cram him up in there with the rest of them guys? That's bullshit. And you know it's bullshit. So cut the fucking jokes. He caught lightning in the bottle. He did what he's supposed to do. He did not crash the Ferrari going to Pasadena. He did what he's supposed to do, which is what a fucking backup quarterback is supposed to do. Now, last point, because I'll have a smart ass historian in here who doesn't like the particular player I'm talking about and forgets what he's done. They'll say, well, Joe Namath won the Super Bowl. And his stats ain't shit. Well, I'll tell you this here. Where therein lies the difference. Five-time Pro Bowler, one-time All-Pro, Super Bowl MVP, AFL Player Rookie of the Year, AFL Player of the Year. Now, this is what he did. First and foremost, the game that you see today is because of Joe Namath. That's one aspect of it. Joe Namath was the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards. Now, he led the league 4 times in picks. Horrible stat. From 67 to 69, 3 times we had a winning record. 2 times in that. His record is 62 and 63. Plunket is 74 and 74. Who did more for the game? Was it Namath or was it Plunket? I'll wait. First cat with a $400,000 contract. Unheard of. Because Sonny Werbler knew that it was all about entertainment. Namath even led the league once in touchdowns. In a 14-game schedule where he played 13. Knees were wrecked. What are we talking about? Fur coats, image, everything had changed at that time. That and the guarantee and the all-time Colts team that was supposed to be unbeaten that left a lot of guys that played on those teams, especially the defense, in shambles. Even after they beat Dallas in the Blunder Bowl, as they called it. Right. Even though they won, guys like Mike Curtis, Billy Ray Smith, Rick Volk, a lot of them guys, even though they won the Super Bowl, it doesn't take the taste out of them mouth that they lost to the Jets, an AFL up-and-coming team. Because the merger was happening that next year. Okay? That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Plunket did nothing even close to that. It's bigger than just stats to an extent. Dan Marino, my favorite quarterback, never won a Super Bowl. AFC champion, but never won a Super Bowl. Never got back to a Super Bowl. His numbers speak for themselves where he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league for a long period of time. Jim Plunket was never that guy. So can we please stop the narrative? And with that, I'm going to conclude, as I always say. There is no GOAT. There's no greatest of all time as long as time is still going on. And numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. I'll holler back at you guys later.